Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about listening to your customers. You might be the creators of your products or service and you might think you know everything about them. If so, you are likely fooling yourself. It is so common that a company, when promoting how wonderful specific features of their product or service are, but at the same time, in the social media communities, their customers are talking about in a quite opposite way. Hearing and listening are very different activities. Listening involves comprehending and understanding what the other person is saying. By listening, you get beyond the surface of hearing, which help you get to the audience pain point and find out what is most important to them. As Liam McChare stated in his interview with Joe Very Living State being in July 2007. Closing the loop, that means listening to customers, feedback and actually doing something with it is the most important aspect of digital media. When a company began listening to all the complaints about its customer service, you should not just hear your customer service sucks. Your company should instead listen and try to understand why people were saying that customer service was poor. You should hear from that. For example, by listening through social media channels, whether using the direct-to-Dell blog or idea storm, or just listening to complaints about its customer service line on blogs and forums. Dell Computer was about to decrease the negative sentiment around its products and customer service. By listening first, you can learn so much more. Listening can open your eyes to so many possibilities that you would never have known about, as well as help you avoid taboos and things not to do or say not these social communities. By observing a community, you learn the lingo and also discover what your audience really thinks about your company. In the past, knowing your customer means setting up some focus groups from your customer. But focus group can cost your company many thousands of dollars to set up and run. Traditional focus groups can be quite flawed. People know they are being brought in for a reason, either to test something or to give their opinion about something. Since it's our human nature that people want to be right and will always try to please the person or company by answering the way they think you want them to answer. This really doesn't happen with social communities. So these social communities are really your best focus groups. Communities share their experience, good, bad, or indifferent with one another. They share tips and tricks on how to use your product or service. They share other forms of media about your product, maybe a photo or a video of how to use it. This can be a totally uninhibited way to learn what people are thinking about you and your product. Dale Carnegie says in his little Golden Rule book that the most beautiful sound to people is hearing their own names. The same is true in online communities. People want to be heard and they want acknowledgement that they are being heard. That's why listening is so important. If you are too busy talking about your company, proclaiming how you know everything about the products and announcing your new venture into social media, you will never hear the audience and what they really need from you. In 2006, KHS Bike created a blog to better interact with his customers. Instead of writing articles about how great their bikes are, KHS realized that customer service was the key issue it needed to address. And the company went beyond just listen to the feedback through the website and the phone lines to actually using social media sites to gauge what its customers were saying about it. You might call your products one thing and refer what they do or how they perform in a very specific way. This creates a reserved vocabulary known only to the organization's insiders. Your audience likely has no clue about this company's specific vocabulary. Your customer refers to your product in a way that is most comfortable to them. It works by word of mouth first. Then it travels to the internet. It's important for companies to know how their customers refer to them and their service. If your customers are nicknaming or storing your brand, products, or service names, it's because they feel comfortable with them. They like them and want to easily share them with other people. For example, Coca-Cola became Coke. It's possible that the lingo your customers use is very different than how you and other members of the industry refer to your company or products. Something as inane as LOL, Internet shorthand for laughing about loud, is a perfect example of comfortable lingo. Contrast to the USA, here in Taiwan, if you type in LOL, it actually will be interpreted by most Taiwanese that you are referred to the famous game League of Legends. Lingo is an easy way for audience to converse with like-minded people, and the only way you learn what lingo your audience is using is by taking the time to listen to the conversations taking place in social media communities. Although you have invested a lot of money into product research, development, and marketing to create the perfect product or service that people will want to buy, the people buying your products are using them in ways you might not expect. People adapt product and service they like into their everyday lives in ways you cannot predict. Take, for example, Evan's popular product, Skin So Soft oil. When Skin So Soft was first introduced to the marketing by Evan, its intended use was as a skin softener. It became one of Evan's top-selling products, and to this day is still one of their top-selling products. Over the years, other use of Skin So Soft have made their way from wives' tales to common popular use. One of the most famous is as a mosquito repellent. Actually, Evan listened to its customer base and started to include this fact into some of his marketing. By embracing its customer's idea, Evan found another marketing to which it could appeal. The moms wanting to protect her kids from itching all summer. They realized is you don't know how your customers will use your products or service. You don't know how they will embrace and repurpose your marketing either. Because your product might be used in a way you never imagined, part of your social media strategy should involve listening and hearing. You need to decide whether you want to acknowledge the other use of your products. You don't always need to acknowledge this alternative use, nor do you need to work them into your marketing. However, you should be very aware of how your customers are adapting your products or service to fit your needs. Consumers feel empowered that they have a stake in the products they love. Some create new marketing ideas without expecting compensating because they like to share their experience with the product. When the first message board appeared on the internet, giving people the capability to create their own content about anything they like or don't like, companies lost their grip on total control and ownership of their brands, products, and service. Not until a few years later did consumers and companies realize the power shift that this held for both sides. Yes, let your customer help you. Marketing conducts involves an element of risk because consumers can say something bad, but people will say something bad online or offline. It will happen anyway, no matter you like it or not. By encouraging your customer to claim some kind of ownership of your product, service, or brands, you will force a sort of ugly baby syndrome. A baby isn't ugly if it's yours. Your customers will want to help you. Your audience will want to give you feedback to improve your product. Your audience, if given the opportunity, will want to be part of something bigger so they can say to their own communities, I was part of making that. We all want to belong. It's rare to find a person who just wants to live our life alone in a cave, somewhere on the edge of a desert. By embracing that your customers and the audience want to be part of something bigger and allowing your customers some form of ownership, you are creating opportunities to reach more people and make your company better. You might have heard the term mashup a few times in recent years, but it's possible you don't know exactly what a mashup is. Essentially, a mashup is a mix of two or more products. Often, these mixes are subpar, but some are extremely useful or at least interesting enough to reach cult status or go viral, as you often hear. Some examples that come to mind are good maps mixed with real estate information, become Zero.com, Dick Coke and the Mentors Experiment, become Inspire.com, viral videos. Apple's 1984 television advertisement for the mission plus Hillary Clinton become the vote different YouTube video. Sometimes when companies learn how customers are using their products or service, they immediately go into all defense up mode and try to squash the consumer movement through cease and desist orders. Some even go as far as lawsuit. Be careful in the world of social media. Taking this action can spell a PR disaster for your company. The internet has changed the idea of total control over your products and service, and even the marketing around them. On the internet, your customers and your audience own and control a piece of them, even though they are not compensated for it. Your customers have an entirely different vested interest than your CEO, your marketing team, or any other employee in your company. Although you have employees who are commit to your company success and are proud of the products and the service they are responsible for. Their vested interest is entirely different than your customers. Your customers' view of what's important, what doesn't work right, and what's truly valuable about your product can be totally different than what your company views as valuable. A social media company is an exactly place to gain this knowledge. The people in these communities share without expectation. They might have agendas, but they generally aren't political in nature. That is, unless it's a political forum. Compared to those of your employees aimed at getting more budget dollars for their departments. Social media communities have a vast estate that's totally free of that, which means their vast interest is their free time or the money they earn to purchase your product or service. Your audience doesn't have to share their experience with your company with other people in other free time, but they do. They don't have to buy your product when money is a bit here to come by, but they do. They are investing time, energy, sweat, and maybe even a few tears in your product or service. If you don't take the time to listen, you won't have any idea just how valuable your product is to your audience. You won't understand what vast interest your audience has in your company. Is it the time they spend putting together receipts using your product to share with others, or was it the expense of all the other ingredients along with your product for making the receipt they are now showing off in video on YouTube, photo on Flickr? The added advantage to listen to your customers interact in social media communities is more preparation time. Often you can catch wind of both good and bad situations with your products or service before the stores hit the mainstream press. Whether companies like it or not, when customers purchase a product or service from your company, they have the ability to affect your bottom dollar. In essential, they own a piece of your bottom line. The advent of ratings and reviews brought a whole new aspect of social media marketing to the forefront of what companies need to be looking at and caring about. If a company marketing a poor quality product, it used to take a few weeks or months for the public to find out through TV, newspaper, or radio news reports. By that time, the company marketing the poor product most likely had already recouped whatever investment it had sunk into the production and the marketing of the product or services, so the reporters and the subsequent sales drops didn't heavily impact the bottom line. Unfortunately, for companies who are manufacturing low quality products or giving poor customer service. Those days are simply over. On the social media side, you cannot control when conversations happen, and you cannot control what is discussed on the site. Conversation about your company can be difficult for your own staff to manage without looking self-promotional. The moment you look self-promotional, you basically lost all credibility, trust, and authority within the community you are engaging. Trying to force a conversation when either the timing isn't right or customers just aren't interested makes your company look like one of those lame marketing communities entering the social media space. Although a blog post review on a blog you selected to test your product might be initially about your product, you cannot stop the community from talking about either how the competition stacks up against you or how great or bad the audience experience with your product was. It's important for marketers to realize that companies cannot control messages in social media. You can craft the message to the best of your ability, own it, fine-tune it, and send it out for public consumption. However, the audience is really in control in these social media communities, in how much value they put into that message, how they interpret it, how they propagate that message to their own social media network. That's something no marketer or PR company can control. If you don't take the time to listen and instead just assume, you could end up insulting the very people in the community who could be your biggest advocates. Listening to your customers can help you in ways you might never figure out. Remember, your customers are very willing to share their ideas and experience with you and the members of social media communities. Thank you for your listening.